So hello students, today we will study topic sociology as a science. Sociology as a science. So there is always a debate whether it is a pure science discipline like physics, or is it subjective interpretation of objective reality. That is, no law can be scientifically, no social phenomena can be scientifically put into to understand the social world. So let's dive into this. So sociology meets the criteria of science through its systematic methodology and reliance on empirical evidence, predictive power, isn't it? Sociologists can predict some of the social events. For example, Malthus population theory, and however, their predictive power sometimes fails. And theory development, for example, AGIL framework of Talcott-Parsons, and replicability. The same social fact can be replicated again and again. For example, the suicide concept given by Emile Durkheim, where he gave uh, four types of suicides, which shows that suicide occur only in these four phases, that is the replicability. And also sociology shows the interdisciplinary approach, which is quite similar to science. And furthermore, sociology is science because nomethetic generalization, instead of nomethetic generalization, it produces ideographic insights with analytical precision, and the practice of triangulation increase the robustness and reliability of findings. And Marx argued sociology, Weber argued sociology must be a science of social action but not mimic physics. Its scientificity rests on interpretive rationality and not mechanical causality. So positivism, which was the aspect of the scientific orientation, provided sociology the scientific scaffolding, but its rigidity also builds cages of reductionism. The rise of non-positivism was not a rejection but a corrective to bring the meaning back to the skeleton of facts. So let's discuss, is sociology really a science or not? So arguments in favor are, yes, it is a science because there are many methodological pluralism, interdisciplinary, and generalization of law, such as law of human behavior. Law of human behavior, example, Com three stages, isn't it? He gave the three stages: metaphysical, physical, and theophysical, like that. And August Emile Durkheim suicide theory, and then labeling theory of Howard Baker, that is the law of human behavior. And objectivity. Next is objectivity. Max Weber ideal types insisted on value neutrality and show sociology's attempt to discipline the subjectivity. But is it really a science? Because there is always ideological orientation in describing all these phenomena. There are ideological orientations and there are problems with experimentations and generalization because each society is unique. Liquid Bauman, liquid modernity, Yogendra Singh has said that there are multiple modernities, so we cannot generalize. And even if the patterns of the two different societies are similar, but what lead to the cause of a particular event cannot be rightly asserted. So, sociology is not a science. Here are some arguments. One is Hawthorne effect. Hawthorne effect means worker. There was a study when workers were examined. So it was found that the productivity of the worker was increased in the presence of camera. So whatever we are objectivity we are trying, it is marred by this Hawthorne effect. It means people will behave differently if they are in the observational situational. If they are under observation, people will behave differently. So that's why we cannot study the society. Even if we study, it will be an artificial one, not a natural flow of the society. Okay. So first drawback is the Hawthorne effect, even if we try to do scientific methodological approach. And observation often is marred by nativization. There are local knowledges, local preferences. For example, Western sociologists, they glorify their own culture and they see other as a inferior. So there is always a problem of nativization. And there another argument which you can be used in exam is Kuhn's paradigm. Kuhn's paradigm means even science has different paradigms like classical physics, quantum physics. So sociology lacks a dominant paradigm. There are multiple schools such as Marxism, functionalism, postmodernist, conflict perspective. Even if these are two different, classical and quantum physics, but actually they still obey or there is certain kind of assumptions and they work blend together, isn't it? But here everyone have their own bias, subjective meaning and orientations, and values always creeps inside. Values always creeps in. For example, Baker had said whose side we are on. The research on caste, gender and inequality is rarely value neutral. And even if we do a field study of scientific approach, then it is not relevant and there are certain limitations. For example, Henry Bette was not allowed to enter into a Adi Dravidian locality by dominant caste in Tamil Nadu. And there are certain aspects such as non-positivist. They think symbolic interactionism means our interactions. With interactions, the meaning changes and thus our behavior changes. And humans have the consciousness and the sense of the self is not self-generating, but it is developed through the interactions with the significant others. So is it really a scientific, is it really a science or not? So that's the question which is always haunted to the sociologist. why do we seek scientific approach, for example, of objectivity? It's because we want accuracy and we want a correct prediction or the correct understanding of how the society behave. So we want objectivity. Objectivity is defined as a value neutral, bias free pursuit of truth, and sociology studies a value laden social world, making objectivity both aspirational and contested. And Auguste Comte envisions sociology as a social physics mirroring natural science rigor, and sociology must purge. Purge means get rid of preconceptions, conjunctures. But few says that objectivity is overhyped. For example, C.W. Mills says that objectivity fetish undermines the sociological imagination, and mainstream objectivity is a form of epistemicide, that is suppression of the knowledge system, where the alternative knowledge such as indigenous, subaltern are erased. Isn't it? So sociologist says that no need to follow two scientific approach, better we go for non-positivist methods such as uh, ethnomethodology, phenomenology, but there are criticisms of non-positivist methods. So let's discuss some criticism of non-positivist methods. So there are demerits of non-positivist method. There is subjectivity concern, there is limited generalization, and there is replication difficulty, and the qualitative research requires time. And critics warn that the subjectivity may risk slipping into epistemological relativism. Subjectivity may risk slipping into epistemological relativism, where every narrative becomes truth and the possibility of generalization evaporates. Peabody caution against such navel-gazing subjectivism. You have to use such terms, okay? Subjectivism. Peabody caution against such navel-gazing subjectivism, which neglects the structural scaffolds that regulate our life chances. And Anthony Giddens also warned against this, and she called it as a double hermeneutics run amok. It means an endless loop of interpretation that may never pierce deeper power asymmetry. Means if we are just going to play subjectivity, and how then we will able to pierce the power asymmetry, how we will expose the injustice, the exploitations. And Anthony Cohen, he says that non-positivism captures the meaning but risks inflating symbolism at a cost of structural inequality. And sociology must abdicate. Abdicate means renounce. Just a second. And sociology should not abdicate its emancipatory role. Means sociology is to because its aim goal was to solve the problems or the enemy caused by modernity. So sociology should not abdicate its emancipatory role and always strive to bring the social change. So the approach is to be scientific, be value free in sociology, and both balance the aspect which is done by post positivism. They acknowledge the limitations of scientific truth, such as they acknowledge the objectivity can be minimum, but still we can achieve it to a certain extent, and they acknowledge that truth is tentative, contextual, and open to refutation. Truth is always open to refutation, isn't it? It is tentative, open to refutation, contextual, and it is corrigible. Corrigible means it can be recorrected or rectified or had the capacity to be correct again. And they gave the concept of falsifiability. Falsifiability, which was given by the Karl Popper. Falsifiability means, you know very well, so no need to discuss that. And value free sociology aspect. So Golding, he says that value free as approach is itself a value laden approach. Means you want something to be value free, and that is also your one kind of value, isn't it? So it is not possible to be a completely value free approach. And here the Weber discussed about he distinguished between the value relevance and value neutrality. Value relevance and value neutrality. Value relevance means the values which shapes our research questions, and neutrality means bias free, unbiased approach while studying the analytical empiricism or analytical doing the analysis of the social phenomena. We have to be a bias free, that is we have to maintain a value neutrality. So this value freedom was called by Weber. He gave term as a brain pride, that is value freedom. Brain pride is called as value freedom. And he also gave the Verstehen method, it is interpretive understanding. And whatever we say that value free, it is value free, it's not actually value free, because the researchers Foucault has said that objectivity is a regime of truth. Objectivity is a regime of truth serving dominant power, and knowledge is always perspective. So furthermore, what can be said is Weber also gave some casuistic probability explanation. It means no need to generalize theory, but you can give a casuistic probability. For example, x likely tends the value of y, means x increases the chances of y, but it is not always true. So he gave just a probability. So we can give this probability. And even when you do the ideal types, then you should just describe it, and you should not prescribe it. You should just describe it, not prescribe it. Or you should not say that this should be in this way, the bureaucracy should be in this way or not. We have to just describe that this can be the ideal type one, but we see the present conditions this way. So the society will itself act as a self-correcting nature, and it will try to aspire towards the ideal one. That is the sociological researcher should be have orientation which he should keep in mind while doing the research. Furthermore, so the non-positivist methods may not be laboratory science, but they are science of meaning, and grounded not in predictive certitude but in interpretive profundity. Interpretive profundity. Profundity means insights, great depth of insights and knowledge, and their scientific utility lies not in aping physics, not in aping physics. Aping means to imitate physics. The scientificity of sociology lot lies in aping physics, but in unearthing the textures of human subjectivity. So here we end our discussion. Thanks a lot.